supposed to be safe, but I'm taking a chance.
Yeah, should we all just huddle in tonight?
Well, people are complaining they can't hear us with the mask, so I don't know what we got to do. Especially Seth, nobody can hear you. Peel that baby down so you can talk louder.
I haven't been in there.
We have an invocation
Is
tonight.
it okay if I come in with the invitation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We would love that.
We'll take you anytime you show.
Sometimes I get a little busy or I forget. I'm not very good at asking the other pastors to step up and do it.
You know they'll all do it if you ask.
They say no sometimes.
Really?
Yeah,
let me know who you're talking
about.
Gary's going to make it.
So well, it was.
Oh, there she
I'm going to
is.
be
Coming in.
doing it. Yeah. Well, we just want to make sure we do it the right way. Exactly. Did you figure out what you need? It's what? We're live. Okay. So we. Very good. How do we turn this on?
You want me to do roll call then?
Yeah, I'm going to need you to have to do everything Diane does. Do you need an agenda then too?
That'll be fun.
Don't call me either way.
Good thing we're live.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
You need it.
It sounds like cheers, you know. Does everybody say your name when you walk in the bar?
Yeah.
You're all old enough to remember that show.
Through the summer?
It's just a matter of
Feel better?
All right.
and then calling the roll. And then she usually uses this thing too to mark the votes and what item it
What do
is.
we got to discuss with him? I forgot.
We're recording it, so she'll be able to.
Well, I think we can even younger than that if they.
Oh, I haven't been in there.
No, we didn't have that last time. The last time we were.
Hi, Koo.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
Those work tonight, Diane? Does she work today?
Yeah.
Not at all?
Because it's a mess.
Somebody got my council to do it.
They're getting closer on the accounts payable.
I emailed it to Diane.
So is your wife coming tonight? If we just got over to what's going on today? There's growing pains. You gotta keep her informed. I would start doing it. Then they would change some names of some of the products too. They abbreviated some. Where is this? Yep.
Okay.
Because I'm not.
Yeah, probably.
And like before, if I'd be looking up like J. Laura Wine, I could just type in J. There it would be. Well, if I do that, I get 18 things before it, so I have to type in Laura. Then it comes right up. This is great.
I'll just take a look.
Hi, neighbor Ken.
It is always so hard.
Oh, we still got plenty of time.
2 minutes and count.
We're already live on TV, just so you know. So.
You getting into your leg workout for the day?
Yeah, get her ready.
School board.
A rough day.
What stage?
Yeah, we would do. Yeah, yes. Yes. No.
Regulatory way. I think we all ended up.
Was that the one in California?
Yeah, I think it was California.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Even if you think you're offline, you're not offline.
Yeah, you can never be too careful.
Need to know this.
We don't need to know.
Come on, there's lots of.
Evidently, I don't need to know.
Better off if I don't. Start using it, get out of here.
Okay, we'll call to order the Tracy City Council meeting for March 22nd. All stand and say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have a pastor in the house.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
No problem. I'd love to share the invocation this morning, or not this morning, this evening with all of you. This is out of 1 John chapter 4. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us and his love is made complete in us. Let's pray. Lord, we love living here in Tracy, Minnesota. And I just pray that as this group of people serves our community and makes decisions, I pray that the love of the people here would be on their hearts. That you would give wisdom and guidance to every decision they make. And I pray, Lord, that you would make this a time that is productive and meaningful for the city that you've given us. We pray this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda before we do the approval?
Madam Mayor, we do. We have an item number 4, which is under 9A. We want to add a number 4 for Resolution 2021-38. This is a resolution awarding a contract. We had a bid opening this afternoon for some airport runway work, and we didn't have that information for you in time, but we figured we'd push it along and get it done since Bollig is here tonight and they can talk about that as well.
All right. Do we have approval with the
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
first and second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anybody in the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Okay, and we don't have a public hearing, so we can move on to the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 8th and March 15th minutes, approval of the municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage, approval of the municipal accounts receivable, and the approval for Resolution 2137 for the Central Park Playground Grant.
Did you purposely mean to leave out the 13th?
Which one? Oh, the 13th, yeah. Yeah, I didn't like what we said in that one. No, please add that one in.
I would just like to make an addendum to the 13th, the minutes.
Okay.
I was present at that meeting, but not cool.
Oh, okay. Did we have that wrong? Is that what
Yeah.
happened? Okay. We'll make that note. You got that, Shane?
On the 13th?
On the 13th, yeah. That was the liquor store tour. And you weren't there on the
That's a good
15th,
one.
but you were there on the 13th.
Right.
That's right, yeah.
Liquor store tour make you sick, or?
No.
Okay, with those changes,
I'll second that.
first and second, do we do roll call here?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
to. 'cause
Yeah,
of
we
the
have to.
Breakthrough.
Dave Teagues,
Aye.
Ann Foreman,
Aye.
We're doing the whole one.
Koopman,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Schoen,
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Motion carries.
What's that?
Motion carried.
Okay, so,
You gotta say
do we have somebody who would like to do that with breakthrough in there?
Sure.
Way to step up that direction. Anybody care to second that one?
I'll second that.
First and second, roll call, please.
Teagues,
Abstain.
Foreman,
Aye.
Koopman,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Schoen,
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Carries. So, For mayor council communication, we have some appointments to the boards. Do you want to say anything about those or no?
Well, these are the applications that we received. We did receive a bunch of names from city council members, various names, although we don't have applications for them. So you could choose to make these appointments, and we still have the charter commission that we need people from, and we can start to pull from those other names. Or if you feel that there's some other names that you submitted you also want to consider, we can extend the time. It's up to you. But if you're ready to appoint these people tonight, you can certainly do that.
How many do we need how many do we need yet for the charter commission?
You know, my memory is 5 or 6, and so it's quite a few at this point that we have to appoint. I think we have some people. 4?
Yes, 4.
Okay, all right. Well, it's still 4,
Still a
quite a
good
few.
count.
Yeah. So yeah, we still have that one to fill yet at this point, but we wanted to make sure we had a full slate of people. We had no applications for the charter commission before tonight, which is why we don't have that here.
Well, I feel like I'm ready to appoint these. Is anybody else okay with that?
I'm trying to find that page. I couldn't.
Here, did they help you?
Yeah, I'm struggling. Who we got? You gonna do them all or just one at a time?
Well, first of all, we're going to have to do the police commission because there's 2. But the other ones.
I
So are you guys, what do you guys think about that?
I guess the only thing I got to say about it is, I'm suspecting we got 2 good applicants, but maybe we should try with someone new to get that person interested in the city a little more.
For the police commission?
Yes, for the police commission.
I think that's
So
a good idea.
I would suggest we try Scott Johnson and see. I see the policeman ain't back there waving his hands no or shaking his hands, so I would make a motion that we would try Scott. Taking nothing away from Tony, he's been an excellent citizen and whatnot, but I'm just wondering about trying
New
somebody
blood?
new.
That's what we did the last time for a different board, so
I'll second that motion. George.
first and second roll call.
Dietz.
Do I need to abstain from that since he's,
It's always better be safe than sorry.
okay, I'll abstain.
Dietz.
Aye.
Orman.
Abstain.
Goodman.
Aye.
Schmidt. Aye. Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kleindyke.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The planning commission and airport board, are you guys okay with
Yes.
those?
For those of you that don't know this Susie Moe, I took it upon myself to go visit her one day. She seems to be a very nice lady, easy to visit with. Seems to be excited to live in Tracy. She is a newcomer to Tracy, but she seemed to be very excited and ready to go to work. So, for those of you that don't know her, maybe you all know her. I don't know. I didn't know her. I talked to her. So I would suggest make a motion to have her do that.
Do you want to do the airport one at the same time?
Okay, and that would be Rosemary Martin.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dietz.
Aye.
Orman.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Schmidt. Aye. Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kleindyke.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
And I just want to say again, I have nothing against Tony Peterson. So hopefully those out there listening don't think I'm out to get him or something. I think he's done an excellent job for the city, and I'm glad he stepped up with his name.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the department heads. Tamara, would you like to go first?
That's favoritism.
Out there waving at
Don't be confused.
It's supposed to be in a conference call. So, we actually have had a great January and February and March so far. 2019 sales versus 2021 is about $15,000 difference. Our P&L, we had a profit again in February. So year to date, we have about a $19,000 profit so far this year, which is above last year. Yeah, so we're rocking it this year again, which is awesome. We do have more inventory right now, and you can see that on the P&L or whatever, but it's because of the way the beer companies raise their prices. So we brought in more beer to begin with right now to hold back that, and then the way the liquor buys have fallen, it's kind of fallen in this, but that'll even itself out. I noticed in the letter that I sent you, half of it didn't get put on there, but so we did a tasting on Friday. Painted Prairie Vineyard came, and Coors Light also did a tasting this Friday with them. But anyways, in April, this is a part that got missed. In April, we are doing the 8th annual MMBA Helping the Animal Drive. I talked with Kathy Nelson, who is the head of the animal rescue, animal shelter. What do they call that, Shane?
Tracy Area Rescue.
Yeah, that one. Anyway, so she's going to bring in some, I asked her to bring in some like photos of animals that can be rescued or can be adopted. Coors Light and MMBA, for the first 30 people that send in applications for adoption, they'll give back $100 toward the adoption fee that they had to pay.
That's great they're doing that.
So, and a couple years ago, we won, anybody that participates, any of the liquor stores that participate, the name gets put in a drawing and then it randomly gets drawn. And 2 years ago, we won a $200 check that we got to donate right to the Tracy Area Rescue. So hopefully we'll get our name drawn again. Anybody have any other questions?
Go out and Tito's again and send them a note because they like giving money away to anything for animals.
Oh, do they?
This is go to that same website you did. And you have to make a request of like, I want $1,000 for it, and they might go, well, we'll give you 500, or you may request 500 and they'll give you 1,000. It just
I
depends.
like those guys at Tito's. I'll call them up.
So yeah, just go through that same website you did for the hand sanitizer.
That's who gave us all our hand sanitizer for the community.
What does it cost to adopt a pet?
You know, I don't even know. Do anybody know what's it
Depends
cost?
on the pet, it's $200 to $300.
Okay.
Depending on if they need to be spayed, you have to sign an agreement that you'll have them spayed or neutered. Which is really cheap when you think about all the time these volunteers and fosters have into those animals.
Tim, do you feel like you're having new customers pulling off the highway that you didn't see before?
Definitely. So we're actually like keeping track of where people are coming from. We're asking them like where they're. Anytime I see somebody new, I always ask them where they're from and what brings them to Tracy. But all of the rest of the employees too. So we're tracking to see like where we're pulling people in from. So and then it can only get better when the people start heading to the lake and start heading by 14 too. So.
Yeah, you opened in July, was it, at the new location?
July, yep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how a whole summer.
You know, and unfortunately, because of COVID, you can't really like judge stuff
Right.
off of last year because that was like way out of the ballpark. But it'll be nice to be able to like, so I kind of like always go back to 19 and kind of try to see what it was like from that versus what our sales are now.
Really would be nice to see if we get more of that summer trade going to Lake State Park and so forth. So, well, good. The numbers look good.
Eric, do we have Highway 14 construction this summer? This might affect sales.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that MnDOT is in the planning stages for construction on 14, but at this point, from Brookings all the way to Tracy, but I don't think that's happening for a few years yet. So I'm not aware of anything specific happening on 14. I know 59 is happening pretty soon, and what's that?
Both ways, going to Marshall or
yeah. So that could affect it theoretically. You know, if people, I don't know if people go a different route because of that, you know.
To 30.
I just want to add, I mean, these are pretty phenomenal numbers, you know, and Tam's doing a great job, because when we're talking about $19,000 in net income in the first 2 months, we had only forecasted $66,000 for the year, and we're only 2 months in. So you know, assuming that we keep, you know, doing well, and we're above where we were in 2020. And remember, keep in mind that January and February there was no COVID last year, so you could almost argue that that's your apples to apples with no COVID time frame, old store versus new store, and we're up about 15% for the first in terms of top line sales, and our margins are a lot better. And I'm not sure what accounts for that exactly, but our gross margin is much higher, which is why we're so much more profitable.
Thank you.
Great job, Tamara.
Thanks, Eric. Actually, it's a team, so it's like we have a great team out there, and they all work well together, so it's a team effort. So, anybody else have any other questions? Good.
Who would like to go next?
Do the library, because they were first.
All right. Just going to hit some high points on my financial overview. The Fiscal Recovery Fund legislation from the federal government, we are expecting about $240,000. That'll come in 2 installments later this spring and summer. There are some specific uses for those funds, and we're waiting on some more details on how that will all shake out. With the governor's most recent executive order, it looks like we'll be able to open the multipurpose center, senior center. Right now it looks to be about 15 people will be our limit, but we're kind of working through those details, and we'll have more information on all of that.
When did you say you'd probably be able to? Or you didn't?
No, we're still waiting. Peggy's working on all of those details right now, so hopefully soon. She's on vacation this week, so.
Let me partially answer that question, George, because I know that's a hot topic. You know, when we're talking about the multi-purpose center, we've got some logistics we've got to work out, because what we don't know is what LSS will serve or not serve. You know, at this point, we do know that, and we'd have to put some limitations on how many people could be in the Eagles at the same time. Like Krista said, it's 15. But the nice thing about the new regulations is that there's no household limit. So it used to be 10 people, but only 2 households. Now you can literally have 15 different households. And so I think there's a potential to open some things up, yes, and we're planning on trying to do that. We're just kind of working our way through the details about how that's going to work. But I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Sorry, Chris.
No, you're fine. Thanks for the extra details. For licensing, driver's license, motor vehicle, and DNR, those revenues are all still up year to date over last year. We did see a little bit of a decline in driver's license and DNR from January to February, but still rocking that. It's been busy in there. I was very surprised how busy it was, and now I'm finally getting used to it. And then just some couple of good news opportunities to point out quick. April received a really nice thank you note from a customer's daughter for her customer service when helping her dad through his driver's license process. He was pretty nervous about coming in and doing that, and she kind of walked him through and got him what he needed. So that was nice to receive in the mail. And then one other quick note, with the increase in licensing customers and still working through some of our employee training, we've kind of had delays in returning emails and calls to customers. We appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that, and we are working through that, and kind of our workflow is evening out now, so we'll continue to improve that side of things as we go. So, any questions for me?
So are the wait times then declining a little bit?
The last couple of weeks they have. I know in February there was a big chunk of trucks that needed to be licensed, so that increased our wait times. It seems like the last 2 weeks they've it's been a lot better.
It must have been a bog down today then, because I had somebody tell me about how long it took today to get.
Yes, yeah,
There.
there was a wait today. But we appreciate everybody's patience when having to wait, so.
Do they still have to only go in one at a time?
We try to keep them one at a time. If there is a longer line and Krista and April or Krista and Peggy are both available, then we'll hold both counters at that time and have 2 people in there.
Can they do either or, depending which window you go to in there? Because there's two slots. So can one slot do one thing, or can both slots do everything?
We try to keep it separated. The one side just driver's license and the other side motor vehicle. But if there are a lot of driver's license applicants, then we'll open up both sides to driver's licenses.
Thank you.
Anything else for me tonight?
Thank you.
All right.
How are you liking your first few weeks?
I'm really enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah, I've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks. Everybody's been very great in helping answer all my questions, and yeah, I'm excited.
Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got our annual report sent in a couple of weeks ago, so I put together some highlights for you. Hopefully everybody's got that or has seen it. The one that says bookmarks at the top. That's my attempt at trying to be clever. So anyway, so just starting with circulation. Our overall circulation was 16,506. And that's down about 2,000 from the previous year, which actually I think is pretty good considering everything. So I was actually pretty pleased with that. Our adult circulation was actually about the same as the previous year, up just a tiny, tiny bit. So that's great that, you know, people were able to find that entertainment and outlet through the library. Next is visits, reference, and computer use. So most of those are things that we estimate. A couple of times a year we do what's called sampling, where every time somebody comes into the library, we mark it down, and then we multiply those by the number of weeks. We usually do it twice a year. This year we only got it done once because it's normally April and October, so we only did October this year. The thing that is accurate on there that we do keep track of 100% is the wireless sessions, because we have something that keeps track of all of those. Something that they added to the report this year was the COVID-19 response. It was a huge, long section. You know, we had it pretty good compared to a lot of libraries in the state. We were only fully closed for 3 weeks, and then we had curbside pickup for about a month, and then we were able to reopen. And I know where my sister lives in central Minnesota, they still only have curbside pickup. So we feel pretty fortunate that we've been able to be open most of this time and do it safely.
Why do you think that you can do it but they can't? I mean, what are you doing different?
You know, I think every library is different.
Okay.
You know, and everyone has their own, you know, governing system. We felt that we were able to open safely, so we did it.
Is it because of the space that you have in there?
You know, that's part of it. And, you know, we tend to not get a huge rush of people all at once. We tend to be a steady trickle of people all day long. So, you know, I think that probably helps. And, you know, most of our Plum Creek libraries have been open also. So that's, you know, it's been really, really good that we've been able to still provide that service for people. Programming is the other big area that we took a big hit in. I'll just give you some idea. From 2019, we had 92 programs, you know, compared to about 25 for last year. we just weren't able to do it. And the previous year's attendance on programs was over 1,500. So we're hoping to be able to pick some of these things back up this year. And, we'll never be able to, like Tam said, to compare the numbers for the 2 years. Hopefully we'll never have another year like last year, and we'll build it up, and by next year we'll be hopefully closer back to normal. Some information on our collection there for you. We've got more than 20,000 physical materials available, and about 10,000 ebooks. And that's, of course, not including all of the things from the other libraries that we're able to get in. We have about 1,256 registered users, which in a town of 2,000 people is pretty good. Website visits was something that went up a lot this year. So we had more than 16,000. Comparing to the previous year, it was 3,548. So that was fun to see. And then interlibrary loan, that's, that truck that comes twice a week and brings us all those great things from the other libraries in our area, and we send things out to other people. So didn't want to give you the whole 18-page report for you to sift through. So
thank you.
Just kind of, I made the board do that. Just kind of pick the highlights for you. So if you ever have any questions, just,
Now, in your total circulation, what percentage of that circulation is books, and how much is DVDs and audiobooks and so forth?
Most of it is books. I have it in the full report.
Okay, I was just curious with the trend towards streaming.
Right.
Are the DVDs and stuff, is that going to gradually decline?
I think so, and I'm not buying a whole lot of DVDs or audiobooks anymore, because so many people are streaming, and because we have access to so many audiobooks, free downloadable ones that we can offer to people just from most people have a smartphone now, and it's just easier. So yeah, I definitely think that's the way it's going. We do have one, for people in Lyon County, we do even have one video service that is available. So it's nice that we can start to offer some of those things too.
Good. Well, we got an excellent library, and I think we should all be proud of it.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for all your work, Val.
Thank you.
And anything else for me tonight?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, you want to go?
I apologize that you don't have the report in front of you. I didn't know that Mrs. Campbell wasn't working today, and I emailed it to her and to forward out to everybody, and didn't realize she wasn't in her office. So I'll give you the highlights. In February of 2021, we handled 107 calls compared to 129 in 2020. I kind of went over the numbers just briefly, and it was like every category was just down a couple. So it wasn't like anything real specific, like winter parking ordinance or something like that tripped the numbers to be that much different. So other than that, I don't have anything for you other than the numbers for the month of February. So
when it gets super cold like it did in February, does that kind of tamp down on the activity?
Not necessarily. It all depends, yes and no. Sometimes the extreme cold makes some certain things like auto unlocks go up because people lock their keys in their car because they let them warm up in their driveway too long, kind of thing. So it can vary both directions. So, any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to go over a few things. I'm not going to take away from Eric's got a few things that we went over today that he's going to go over also. But a couple of things I got for you. We are in the process. It's in the newspaper this week again for hiring 2 more part-time people for the senior center for the help over there with Linda. So she will have her normal 16 hours, and then we're going to hire a couple people that we just put it in there as 8 to 16 hours because we don't know where the hours will all go. There'll be a certain amount of hours, but we'll split it up between the three of them. And Linda told Eric and I that she wasn't concerned on how many hours she does get or does not get. So we're looking for that right now. I don't have any more updates for you on that. Second thing I wanted to mention tonight is I believe in the next 3 EDA meetings, which would be April, May, and June, we're going to have, I'm betting 2, possibly 3 of the business grants that people are going to be applying for, and actually 1 business loan for a startup also that will be coming to the EDA looking for some financial help. So that's kind of exciting that we can continue during COVID. Not only did we not lose anybody here in the city of Tracy for during the COVID year that we've been going through, but I think we are going to actually expand. So I think that's something we should be pretty happy about. But I'll have more information, and the council's more than welcome to, when I do send out the agenda, this next meeting in April is actually going to be in person for the first time since last February. So we're going to do it in person, and of course we'll be safe with it. But I think it'll be nice to get everybody together. But over the next few months, when you read the agenda, you'll be able to see if you want to come up here and take a look at some of the potential new businesses either that are here or coming that might want to talk to the EDA about some money things. Third thing, I just wanted to clarify something. The money that the county had in this last round, and I kept calling it the CARES money, and people kept telling me that I was wrong. It wasn't the CARES money. I just keep using it. It's the money that for COVID. It's the COVID money that came out where I told you guys about it a month ago, but we actually got it in now, and $58,500 went to the Tracy businesses. So again, we went over our not our allotted amount, but I knew with population wise we should have gotten a certain amount, and we went well over that again. So that was nice. And the next thing, I know Eric's going to touch on it a little bit also, but pretty exciting to be able to be a part of the community spirit actions that we're going to be taking this summer with some movies in the park, and I think it's something that you're really going to want to promote within your groups and within your peer groups or whoever else. But we want to make these events. We want to make them pretty special for a lot of people, and we want to get people out of the house. And I think this is a perfect time to do it with COVID going to be over. Somebody promised me that. But,
Okay, I will.
Okay. So that's what I got for you tonight. And anybody got any questions about anything? Sounds good.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's everybody. Mayor, the next item we have is a report from Bollig Engineering on the airport. And they don't have a presentation, but you have the information in your packet that they'll be going over tonight. And with that, we'll have Angela come up and talk about what's going on.
Scroll down.
Oh, Shane didn't give his report. I'm sorry. I thought you were Diane.
Your choice.
Go ahead. I looked out there and I saw no one else. Sorry about that.
Well, that's a slam to Diane, ain't it?
It is.
Okay. Well, thank you. Eric invited us here tonight. I'm really glad to be in front of you. It's been quite a while. My name is Angela Holm, and I'm the Aviation Division Lead at Bollig Engineering. With me today is Paul Jurek. He's our Senior Engineer, and he's managing the construction of all of the projects that are happening out at the airport this summer. So we have a lot of exciting things to touch base with you on. I'm going to talk about the planning projects, and he'll talk about the construction projects. So the first thing I wanted to just touch on was the master plan. As you know, that's been an ongoing project, and we are very, very close to the end now. We have one more chapter left, and it's done. And tonight we had a community advisory committee meeting where a number of people throughout the community who were invited to be in this group at the beginning of the planning task have been weighing in on the design and of the study this whole time. We had a great meeting tonight with a lot of participation. We're getting very close to being done. June 1st is the deadline that FAA wants to see, and we're comfortable we'll be ready. Right now we've got 4 or 5 chapters of narrative, and then we've got an airport layout plan, which is in progress. So just wanted you to know where that's at. It's going well. Any questions about that before I move on? Okay. Hangars, I know, is top of mind for the city, and I just wanted to share with you a little bit of information about hangars and how they can be funded. Because we've been talking about this quite a bit with MnDOT and FAA. There are 3 ways that hangars can generally be funded. One is if a private entity or a business chooses to build a hangar, they can build a private hangar and they can lease airport land from the airport. That's one way, and that's probably the easiest way. The other 2 ways are funding through the FAA or through MnDOT. Now, FAA will give you money every year. You get $150,000 for the airport's use as part of the NIPIAS program. And what's great about that is it's grant. What's bad about it is there's tons of strings attached. And I know that Eric gave you our little engineering update, and there's a list, a bullet point list on the bottom of page 1 that starts to show you the things that the city has done and we've done with you to position you guys in the place where you can use that money for hangar construction or whatever else you need. The story is that FAA doesn't want to fund a hangar, which is considered a revenue producing facility, until all of your safety needs are met first. And they specifically call them airside needs. Some of the things that you've already done to position yourself for that money is getting your apron reconstructed, because that was bad. Taking down the power poles, for instance, a couple summers ago at the end of the runway, that was another one. Those are examples of the types of things they want. There are a couple more issues that were identified during the master planning process that they still want fixed before they'll let you use that money for hangars. And that would be the fact that you've got a runway protection zone, which is a trapezoid-shaped space at the end of runway 11, going over County Road 11. That's not a thing they want to see. You also have an obstruction there, and that's something that MnDOT doesn't want to see. The road itself is considered an obstruction to MnDOT. Once you put a vehicle on it, it's potentially an obstruction to someone approaching for a landing at that runway. The other obstacle, really, is the opposite end of the runway. As you probably are all aware, there's a ravine basically at the end of runway 29. And it's too close to the end of the runway. It encroaches on the runway safety area, and that's another thing that they're going to want fixed before they will let you use money for hangars. Needless to say, both of those projects are pretty large and will take some time. It may make it difficult to use that money in the very immediate future.
You have a plan on how to fix
We do.
The road issue?
We do.
Move the runway or what?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Holy moly.
So, and we did run through those things we've been working with Eric and Shane, members of the board, and then this advisory committee, community advisory committee, to talk about how we can do that. And we've been working with MnDOT and FAA on the fine details of what they'll support. You know, what will they fund to fix these problems? And the short story is that they're asking us to move the threshold of the runway further away from County Road 11.
How much further?
413 feet, probably.
413 feet.
Probably. That's what? Somewhere in there.
Okay. And
Right.
how about the creek or ravine or whatever you call it? How are you going to move that?
Yeah, so there's alternatives for that too, and that's exactly what we've been talking about this evening as well. There's a couple ways to fix that. One is to shorten the runway from the other end, which is not really desirable, obviously. Another one is to put a culvert in that creek or ravine
so that you can grade out the area at the end of the runway and have it be flat for the appropriate width and length. And then the third one is to put in that culvert and extend the runway over the top of it into the property to the south.
And you think the DNR will let you do that?
Actually, we've talked to them already. As part of the master plan process, we looked into that waterway to try and figure out if there's anybody who had anything to say about it, and nobody claims it. But everybody, nobody says this is in our jurisdiction, but they all say it's super important that you allow this water to flow freely. So of course, we would do that anyway. So there would be a big box culvert. It would have to be sized large enough and strong enough to hold an aircraft rolling over the top of it, or even parking on it. Not that the aircraft that are going to be at Tracy are that heavy, but it also needs to accommodate flood conditions like you had a few years ago.
That hard service road that runs east and west of the airport there, on the north end of the airport, there's no issue there?
Oh, it's...
One that goes by the cemetery.
Oh, on the turf runway? Yeah. No. I would have, you'd think that makes a difference, but we've not had any pushback on that at all. And I think it's probably because, it's not used as much, it's turf, and if you shorten that runway to, take care of that problem, you'd have no runway at all. So they've not asked for that to be shortened or anything, which is good. Those are the couple things that they'd really want fixed before you could use FAA money to build hangars.
Well, do you have a plan when you're going to attempt to do that?
Well, FAA's thought is about 5 years is about when they'd be ready to fund it. And they do fund it. So they would be funding at least, unless we can work a sweet deal with them and they fund more, they're going to fund at least 90% plus 5% from the state. So the local match would be 5% of the whole cost.
So, Mike.
Can I add something to that?
You certainly can.
Just in terms of the financial piece. A couple things. We have no way of knowing whether these are all the projects that they are going to want us to do before we can get money. Yeah. It's entirely conceivable the way the FAA works, because they don't like to fund things like hangars that something else could come up that we don't know about. But ultimately, you've got about 5 years worth of projects right now on your 5-year CIP, and that includes the design of this runway, piece in 5 years from now in 2025. And then you'd have to do the construction after that, and then figure out a way to fund that. And that's going to be a big discussion that you're going to have to go through, because we're talking about a $5-6 million project for that runway. And 5% of that is $250,000. And so we're not talking about a small amount of money here. And so there'll have to be some decisions down the road, as to when that happens, how that's going to be funded, et cetera. And all those things have to happen before we can get any money for a potential hangar. So it pushes it out quite a few years. The question you're going to have to ask yourself is, geez, do we need to do this quicker now? Because it's so far out, it's almost like they won't fund it, to a certain extent, in reality, even though you technically can. Which is kind of what we told you before, ultimately, is that really wasn't a good source of funds for this. So, from our perspective, there's some significant financial challenges at the airport. We have enough fund balance right now, to handle probably the next, 3 to 5 years worth of projects. In other words, you've got some savings in the airport fund that you can use to do that, but you go much out past that, and that's going to be another decision you're going to have to weigh. Do I spend it on the airport, or do I spend it somewhere else? Those kinds of things, because you don't have an unlimited checkbook. I just wanted to make sure that I outlined that financial. Not something you need to decide tonight, but it's coming up down the road. So sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem.
So my question I was going to have is, like, the $150,000, you have to do these other projects in order to get that. So basically, you don't get that because these projects aren't funded for the next 5 years.
So you will continue to get that $150,000 a year, every year, as long as you keep your NIPIAS status, which means you need to keep 10 based aircraft on the field. They do give you a little bit of leeway, 10%. You can get down to 9 and they won't kick you off the list, essentially. So it's not to say that they won't ever fund it, like Eric said, but having to fund these larger projects first makes it really hard to just keep telling your based aircraft, just hold on a little bit longer, because it's going to be quite a long time if you do it that route. There are other ways to do it, though. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is using MnDOT money. So MnDOT has a program called the Revolving Hangar Loan Fund. And that is a great program because it's a 0% loan, no interest, for 20 years. Catch is that you do have to pay it back, unlike FAA money, which is a grant. But you're probably going to access it sooner. We had a meeting with MnDOT and FAA in February to talk about the airport, and we specifically talked about hangar funds and loans, and we were told that they expect Tracy to be able to access the revolving loan fund in 2022 or 2023, meaning the summer of 2022 or 2023. That would be the soonest. There is only one airport ahead of you, though. You've come, in the last couple of years, you've moved from the bottom of the list to second to the top. So those really are the three ways that we can fund hangars. The very quickest would be if some corporate hangar was built there, or some private investor decided that they wanted to build. And we are to the place now where if someone said, I want to build now, we could show them where it would be okay to build. We have that information.
Do we have any help that we can help that private investor, ways to help them borrow money, or do you have any help there to help them build that?
I sometimes wonder if there's probably opportunities through maybe an EDA, through deed, if it's going to encourage employment in the Tracy area. They will fund things like that too. You just need the right person who wants to do that kind of project. I think there are funds out there, but you got to look for them. So,
is there a max on the revolving loan fund?
I don't believe so. Do you know? I don't think so either. What we've been told through MnDOT and FAA is that those T hangars, if you were to build one, it's about $100,000 a unit. So an 8-unit T hangar will cost you, in construction costs, about $800,000. And then you need some engineering and administrative and legal stuff too, I'm sure, on top of that.
So for 8, it's basically $1 million.
That's probably about right.
But ballpark, yes.
Yep. You don't have to build 8 at a time. You could build 4. As we were talking about in our earlier discussion today, you could hold on to that hangar that's out there right now for the time being. Maybe lease out the side that is still on pavement, and then build another 4-unit hangar as demand allows. If there was demand for more, you could build more. So it would all have to be tied to demand.
Is there anything we can do with the hangars that are out there? I mean, are they just outlived their life?
Well, there are things you can do, but there are certain things that you can't do. You can reskin it and you can make it look better, but what I'm hearing is that for a lot of the aircraft that want to base out there right now, some of those, the space isn't wide enough. The doors aren't wide enough, or maybe not tall enough. Well, you can't really fix that without lifting up the building, and you can't really widen it. It is what it is. And it's not that good of an investment, honestly. Reskinning it would be cheap and would make it look nice, but that's about all it would do. So I would plan for eventual replacement.
If you think about it, $1 million for 8 hangars, it'd take a private investor a long time to get their money back on that, would it not?
Eric probably knows that better than me. He's been
I
crunching
can
the
tell you the
numbers.
answer because I just did the math on my phone.
Yeah.
$1 million at 0% interest over 20 years for 8 units is your break-even cost is $520 a month
Per unit.
But that's it.
per unit.
But that's not like a private person because they won't get that 0%, right?
Well,
That's true.
that's right. But here's my point: is that if we want to break even on a loan like that, we would have to charge $520 a month for access to that facility. They're paying $180 a quarter now. In Olivia, which is has pretty hangars that are only a few years old, not too far from here. They're charging like $425, $450 a month, for their newest hangar. I don't know what luck that they are in terms of filling that up, but even with the hangar loan, you're going to end up subsidizing it to some extent, and I don't know how much, but that's how the math works out.
Do we have enough larger airplanes at that airport to say do 4? And do you or anybody think that they would be willing to spend that much a month?
I don't know the answer to the question as far as people would be willing to spend that. We haven't broached that subject with too many people. We had a meeting earlier tonight with the advisory committee, folks that are out there right now, and I kind of threw out a $450 a month number, and that's a lot more than they're paying, say, at Marshall, for example. So I think the way that I couched it was I said, we don't know when we're going to get the hangar loan. We think it'll be a lot of years before we'd even be eligible to get FAA money for it. And if you really want a hangar right now, the best thing to do is to figure out how to build it on your own, and we'll basically give you the land for nothing because there's no skin off our back at that point. So from my perspective, our best bet at this point, and the question came up, well, could I build something to spec and then lease some of it? I mean, yeah, I think there's a business model out there potentially for it. So I think our best bet at this point, while we're waiting for a hangar loan and make that determination, is to see if we can encourage, some private investment out there. And maybe there's a way that we can help them through the EDA. I don't know, to be honest. But ultimately, that's probably your best bet for something to happen sooner rather than later. And I think there's a little bit of interest in that.
A fixed base operator could build something out there, lease the land from the city, and they could either be doing aeronautical, aircraft repair, or they could even be, I don't know, they could be like a storage facility too. And that would help your based aircraft numbers as well. So I think there's things that can be done. It's just that, depending on which route you go, there's strings. FAA definitely has the worst strings. I think MnDOT will be accessible much sooner to the city of Tracy. But I agree with Eric that I think finding some investing partners would be a great opportunity for this airport, at least in the short term. Just only one other thing I wanted to mention before I turn it over to Paul is that you can get the site work for that hangar. Say you were to get a loan for a T hangar from MnDOT, you can get a grant for the site work for that hangar from MnDOT. So that covers the grading, the taxi lanes, and the floor slab for the hangar. And it's on your CIP, it's on MnDOT's priority list. They just didn't choose to fund it this year. We've been kind of poking and prodding for them to fund it as soon as possible, knowing that you need the hangar. Let's get the site work done first. And it's basically the last thing on their list for Tracy, so my hope is that next year they would say, finally cut loose and fund this for Tracy. And then you'd be ready for when that hangar loan came through. So any questions regarding hangars?
How big a site would you prepare then? The 8 site or 4 site?
if I had a grant coming for it, I would do the whole 8 so that you had that in place. And if you only build 4 for now, great. You can always add 4 on later. Yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Paul.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Jurek with Bollig Engineering. We had a bid opening today for a pavement maintenance project out at the on the runway. It's basically a crack fill with they call it a micro seal, which is kind of like a seal coat. And the low bidder on that was Farner Asphalt out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and they had a bid of $141,816.75. I think was the number there. So there were 2 bids that we had. The next highest one was $179,000, and then my estimate was actually $240,000. So we're recommending to move forward with that. And then the next project we have on the list, which would probably open up in April here, is the driveway and parking lot project. And we're just finishing up with design with that. Move this thing. So we'll have the bid opening on that in the spring. So the third project is the AWAS replacement, which is an automated weather observing system. And that we have, we want to do that this summer yet too. So, so we're looking for 3 motions from the city. First one would be to accept the pavement maintenance project. The second one would be to advertise for the parking lot. And the third one would be to start on the AWAS system. So,
Mayor, we can't, per our charter, requires motions like these to be done through resolutions. You can't do those kinds of things. We do have a resolution on the agenda later tonight to approve the bid that Paul just asked about. The others we can bring forward in a future council meeting, you know, as if we need to do that. But I just wanted to make sure the council understood that you know, you're required by your charter to do everything by resolution, and it has to be printed in advance and written in advance. That's actually in the charter itself.
But do we need to give them permission to seek bids for the other 2 projects? No?
In reality, probably not, George, because it's already on your capital improvement plan and it's approved as part of the budget for 2021. So in reality, these projects are already ready to go. And in fact, I already signed the grant agreement for the AWAS, you know, portion of it, as well as the paving project last summer. So there's you know, it probably is something that can be done administratively, is what I'm getting at in those cases.
okay, that's all. Anyone have any questions or?
Just to clarify, so the first one, the runway that you just have the bids, that's covered by a grant?
Correct. That would be a 95-5 split between 95 and 5. So,
Then the next one, the parking lot and the driveway.
That's a 70-30 split. That's a state grant.
And then the third one, the AWAS.
So that one's a little different again. It's a 25-75 split on that one. But MnDOT's going to pay for the system itself that's above ground. They don't pay for the electrical and the foundations for the system. So it's a
So that the above ground is a grant from MnDOT.
correct. Yep.
And then the 70, what's this, the 70,000, it says grant for 70,000 at 75% local, 25% state.
Correct, so you'd split that 70,000. The city would be responsible for 25,000.
So I'm
Or,
confused with the word
excuse me,
grant.
25%.
I'm confused with the word grant for 70,000.
So it would be, whatever that would divide out to, 75% would be MnDOT grant, 25% of that 70,000 would be city responsibility. And then the rest is all paid for by MnDOT. They're actually installing it.
I guess I'm just used to the word grant, that we don't have to.
So
There's always a match.
You always have to match a certain
Yeah.
percentage on
Right,
on
yeah.
all the airport stuff.
So it's 25% of 70,000 would be the city's responsibility, so whatever that math.
I think it's 17,500. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right.
Yep.
That was it.
And council member and mayor, all these projects were already approved as part of your budget, and the money is in your budget for 2021 to do these. Yeah.
Our
Yes.
percentage match or whatever.
Yes,
is in the
it's all in there. In fact, we'll probably spend less because of this bid coming in lower than we expected. And but yes, you all this money is in your budget for 2021.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you want to hear from Shane now?
I'll stand up.
Or should we call him Diane?
Call me what you want. I guess hopefully everybody had a chance to read my report. I guess I'll answer any questions you may have. Had a few water main breaks, but other than that, it's been pretty good on the snow side of things. So probably be looking at cleaning the streets up soon. Once the frost kind of quits pushing up, the streets are a little soft right now to run a 20,000 pound sweeper over it, but after the rain and everything that we're supposed to get in the next couple days, hopefully don't come all at once, but that might help us clean things up a little bit. I don't know if you had any questions.
When are you going to start with, I know it's too early, but when are you planning on starting like with the crack filling and the seal coating, and is that late summer?
Good question. Right now, actually today we were marking out some of the areas need to be patched prior to seal coating. Some of these roads to be able to save them. Been marking all them out. So we have all the information put together for, which roads should be on the top and prioritize the seal coating list. As far as the patching goes, we need a patch ahead of the seal coating process. Because you can't really seal coat over a pothole. It's not really productive. So we'll get that all together, and then we're going to put together an RFP, but it's likely going to be in two parts. So you're going to have a lot of times the seal coat companies don't do patching, and a lot of the patching people don't do seal coating. So we have to split that RFP out when it goes out into two different projects. One person could bid on both, if that's the way they wanted to do it, but so we'd like to get that put together here, in the next couple weeks, and hopefully bid out maybe as late as the end of April. So
the patching that's going to be done will be done by an asphalt company.
Yeah.
Not just the city getting.
Yeah, we might do little ones here and there on some of the roads that are far beyond being able to seal coat. Some of them are too far gone. You're throwing money at it and then for nothing really. So. But there's most of them we're able to save yet, but that's kind of where we're gonna get involved there. But there's a lot of moving parts.
Do you have any plans to, or does the city have any plans to do, what's that street that goes east and west past the old Monfort building or Swift building?
Front Street?
Front Street. Do we have any plans? Because that one end is bad.
Yeah, that towards the bus garage there.
Yeah.
That's.
There's bad several spots, but that one end is really bad.
Yeah, there's no base under that road, and we ended up putting a base in there. But now it's the last quote we got was close to 30,000 to repave that area. Depending on how numbers come back, and I know there's some FEMA allocations coming. We don't exactly know what those amounts are yet, but hopefully we can apply those to that and maybe get that wrapped up too. It's a bad area. It's for moving snow. It's bad for water. We got gravel to rake out of yards again, and it's not really on the maintenance side. It's kind of a pain, but
we're trying to get some FEMA money for that, and ultimately, if we went out and spent a bunch of money on it right now, we may not get the FEMA money later on down the road, and they are notoriously slow. Yeah. And so we're working our way through it. I think we know that it's bad. Yeah. I drove on it today, as a matter of fact. It's terrible.
Well, one of the people that live out there said I didn't build a new house and move to town to drive on a gravel road. So
yeah, that's about right.
I was hoping that in his lifetime it would get fixed at least.
That's about right.
It's in the works.
Put him right. And then just to say, not to say anything negative, but after that last snowstorm, I drove out there 3:30 in the afternoon, and that whole end of town hadn't been touched yet with a plow. But any other street I drove on was slick clean. Can't we get around and open everybody up and then go finish?
So here's what happens when the snowfall falls in the late morning like that, and I call late, like it finished itself up right around 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning. We went out. It takes 8 hours to get through town. So 3 o'clock, it's not going to be done. It can't.
My question to you isn't that it's not going to get done, but everything else was done immaculate, even the alleys, and that end of town wasn't touched. So my question is, why don't we at least open it up for them and then do the alleys or make everything 40 feet wide or 50 feet wide?
Yeah, and
just get around and get everybody open is what I'm asking.
There's a lot of logistics to that because everything is timed. One person's route can't happen until another person's route's done, and for everything to work, we have to follow our routes. In that case, I know that one of the plows had to stop and change the cutting edge out because they were running on pavement, so it went through a lot quicker than it normally would on a normal plowing. And then, so that took a little extra time. It probably took about an hour to change one of them out. So that adds to the route. And the alley's a completely different machine. That's a tractor loader. Tractor loader does not move snow on a paved street.
I understand everything you're saying, but I don't understand why you can't go around, open the whole town up, and then finish your routes. That's all I'm asking. I lived in the country for 40 years. The snowplow went around and opened everybody up, and then he come back and made it 40 foot wide or whatever, so that people don't have to get stuck.
So if we go around once, we plow it, people clean their driveways, and then 3 hours later we go fill out everybody's driveway in town in. I don't know if you want us to do that, we can, but everybody here is going to hear about it. So
can I help with that too? Our biggest costs in snow removal are fuel and overtime. Because snows never seem to happen during regular business hours, and if you start talking about going through the city twice, once to get everybody open and then once to clear it again, you're going to double your costs.
You're going through it twice anyway.
What Shane is saying is that there's an efficiency of the route, and we're trying to maximize letting it happen at the same time as making sure that we do it in a cost-effective way and most efficient way. And I think we could probably do better. And that's one of the reasons why we adopted the snow plowing policy last fall in the first place, is to kind of outline, how we're going to do it. And so I think that, we can always learn from that and try to figure this out. But ultimately, there is an efficiency in terms of how you do it, because we have limited resources. We only have so many people that can run the trucks. We only have so many trucks. And, it's kind of the nature of the beast.
I get all that.
You can throw more money at it if you
I
want.
get all that, Eric. I understand that, but what I don't understand is why they can't open it up that end of town. Why do those people have to get stuck all day when the rest of the people don't? That's the part I'm just trying to figure out.
We'll see if we can get a better answer for you.
Okay.
In this case, that this happens, and that's when we get our complaints, is when it snows right away in the morning. One, we're dealing with traffic, because nobody moves for us. Nobody moves their car off the road. We plowed around 20-some vehicles, even though we put the notice out. There's that. We can wait, let it sit all day, and then come out at night, and then everybody's done at the same time. But then no one likes that either. So, as far as the timing goes, if you can tell Mother Nature to make sure it's all done snowing by 2 a.m., we'll have it gone before everybody's out and about by 8 in the morning.
That's not what I'm asking, Shane, so just forget it.
What I'm going to do is that Shane and I will sit down and kind of go over the snow route plan, I guess. And I think the first step is probably to just get that plan, to you so that we can get you more detailed information about it. And then and we can certainly schedule. It probably doesn't make any sense to do it right now because we're probably just about done with snow. But we can, by the time fall rolls around, we can have that discussion again about the snow plowing, and we can revisit the snow plowing policy and see if there's some things that we want to do differently. We certainly don't want people to feel like they're, at the tail end of the situation, or that we don't care about them getting out of their houses. We absolutely do. We're just trying to figure out how to balance, all of the needs of the community plus the costs associated with it, and in the most efficient way. Because all the taxpayers are paying for it. But we'll bring it back. We'll provide you some information, and we'll bring it back for a future discussion.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Shane. Rick, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, just a few things. I put in front of you a couple things. One is that, based on our discussion a week ago Monday about the kind of branding of the community, Above the Fold has been working on some examples for us of some logos, and we took your feedback back to them and came up with a couple of examples. Now, what we'd like to do, per your direction last week, is to start taking this around to a few people. Have the EDA took a look at it, Planning Commission, some other, people in town, maybe some folks from the chamber and other citizens to see, what their thoughts are about it. Excuse me. And then ultimately bring it back to you for a decision. Is this something you like? Do you want to scrap it and start over? That kind of thing. I'm happy to, if you've got some specific feedback tonight, I'd certainly take it. But, my thought was to get some community feedback, per our discussion a week ago. What do you think about these options?
I like the one in the middle of the page, or the bottom.
The bottom?
Yeah.
The bottom page?
The white and blue
I like the one.
I like that one, I guess.
I do like the one on the bottom of the page, but would it not be more better of space if you just dropped Tracy a tidbit and made that train a little bigger? Because you have.
You're talking about the one on the
space right there.
Oh, yeah, you could. There's little tweaks you can make to the logo at this point, for sure, if you wanted to change some of that.
Well, I just want the space in between here. You got a lot of white space in it.
Yeah, you probably could even that out a little bit.
So the train's a little bit.
Yep.
You want all that white space?
I agree with George.
So-
I like the bottom one too.
Okay.
So do you like the bottom one without dropping that down a little bit?
White space is good.
Sounds like a newspaper man.
Okay.
Heard from
There's
the
a
expert.
reason for it.
Yes.
Heard from the expert.
But ultimately, we plan to bring that back, sometime next month, for some decisions, and then we'll go from there. So I think Above the Fold's done a great job.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
It's all April.
April's done a great job. The other thing I wanted is something new that I wanted to call to your attention as well. I've created a new report. A little bit later tonight, you're going to adopt, your goals, and the kind of the next iteration of this, the evolution of this, is I wanted to be able to take the projects that we were doing and put them in a report for you, so you can say, okay, well, where is such and such at? And I would consider this to be like a work plan, basically. It's not everything that we do in the city, but it is the things that are directly related to the goals that you set as a city council. So, we're not going to put things like we paid our, ran accounts payable this week on the list, but know that that's still continuing to be done anyway. And so, I think I just want to go through this real briefly through in terms of a few updates, and then ask you, how you would like to receive this, because we could talk about this on a regular basis. If you'd want in council meetings, I could provide this to you via email. We could have a study session specifically to talk about it, but ultimately it's designed to give you an update of where some things are at. So, just real briefly, at the top of the list, the first goal is developing new housing plan for families. Just a few highlights. The comprehensive plan citizen steering committee is going to have their first kickoff meeting on April 7th. And that really kind of starts that whole process. And as you remember, we hired SRDC to do that for it. There's a woman by the name of Rosemary, not that Rosemary. We have two Rosemarys. Rosemary Bruce White from SRDC, who is doing that for us, and I believe she's actually moving to Tracy, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
she lives.
Has moved in.
Yeah, she moved from. She lived in Slayton, but she actually moved to Tracy, and so I guess we got a new mover at the same time as a consultant for our comprehensive plan.
That worked out well.
No, she's great. She went to the University of Iowa and got her planning degree there, and so that's getting started. The other thing that's going to be coming up pretty hot and heavy is Jeff and I are going to start talking about this. I don't know. I'm not sure what to call it. I just started calling it the New Movers Grant Program. Basically, it would be an incentive for people to move to the city of Tracy. And our thought is we would partner with. You may have seen something about the paper about this because the EDA was discussing it before. About partnering with a company and a lender, and maybe we provide a job and a house and everything kind of ready-made for someone into town. It becomes essentially an incentive for people to move to the community. And so we're going to start putting some more meat on the bones for that program and discussing that with the EDA. Ultimately, you as a council will have to decide what that is, but it will be something that we'll be bringing back to you in the near future. The other, on the next one, which is developing a marketing program, the one with the quickest thing that's happening is the Tracy Activities Guide, also a partnership with Above the Fold. The citizens might remember the booklet that was created a couple of years ago, with the pink Tracy on the top that was done that had various ads and city information in it. So we're going to do that again this year. And we're going to turn that really into kind of a guide for visitors for Tracy. Ultimately, it'll include a lot of content from the city, and we're going to pay for the printing costs, and Above the Fold will basically be selling advertising for the rest of it to help the businesses in Tracy describe what it is that you can do when you visit. And that's probably the big stuff that I wanted to point out on that, other than one more thing, other than the branding and the logo we already talked about. One more thing, because Jeff did mention it earlier tonight about the summer park activities. So we've been kicking around the idea, and we're planning on doing some movies in the park this summer, essentially. We kind of feel people are ready to get back out and do some things again. And so one of the things that's different is the Chamber is doing the Women's Expo this year on June 5th. On a Saturday, but instead of doing it in the VMC, which they normally do, they're going to do it outside at Central Park, and so it kind of becomes almost a outdoor festival to a certain extent at that point. And we're going to have that evening as well. We thought, well, why don't we just continue with it, and we'll do a movie in the park that evening. So We plan on 3 of those kinds of days over the course of the summer, but that's going to be the first one on June 5th. We'll have more details forthcoming on that, but we think that could be a pretty neat community event. Infrastructure, we've already talked a lot about tonight, and so I'm not gonna add too much to that. Multi-purpose center, we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, is your 4th goal. And the last goal, one more, well, we'll talk about that later. The last goal that you've set, or will set later tonight, based on the conversation we had a week ago, is citywide beautification. We don't have a lot of information yet on this one because this is a new goal that you asked us to put together. And so I don't want you to look at that and say, gosh, we're not doing a lot. Well, we're going to need some time to put together some programs for that specifically. But we have some ideas. Jeff and I did a tour of the city today. We drove, I think, just about every street. And we kind of created a list of areas we think that might need a little bit more help. And we think that we'll try to put together a program, probably a pilot program for us to try this summer to see what we can do to address, blight, code enforcement, operations, things like that. That's all I really have to update on that at this point. But other than some of the park improvements and maintenance that we're going to do this summer as well, and Shane's going to have a presentation on that at our next council meeting. But ultimately, that's kind of where we are on the big picture. What do you think about this report? Do you like this report?
I like this report.
Okay.
I guess especially when we could check things off.
Yeah. Yep.
I think we're going to stay on track with this, Eric. I like it.
Okay, good. Do you want me to? I could do this, every month, like as part of my report. The department heads can do their reports, and I could do some of this. Does that work for you? Would you like to receive this in, email format as well, or how would you like to get this information?
I'd like it email and just do it with your monthly report.
You could do both.
Well, you can just, because it gets emailed out to us anyhow.
Yep.
So I would just add it to your monthly report, and then if there's things that are completed or whatever, we can just, like I said, check it off as we go. And
yep.
If we question why something isn't moving, then we have a piece to work off of.
Yep. Okay, we'll keep doing that. I'm glad you like it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. New business.
We have several resolutions for you to consider tonight. The first one is a resolution. Jeff is going to come up and talk about this. You might remember that we reorganized a little bit and put the aquatic center under Jeff's operation this year. And so he's kind of starting to get his arms wrapped around this, and he'll present this item.
First thing that goes along with this, I meant to mention earlier about we are on pace with a lot of the lifeguards and everything that goes along with the aquatic center, that we are on pace to have that open like we had talked about. And obviously we all know that it wasn't open last year, so this is just another piece of it. So
when is that again?
It will be the training of the lifeguards is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And if I don't have a calendar in front of me, but it's that weekend after that is when
But what month is that?
June.
Okay.
Yep. Pretty for school's out, so this kind of goes right along with it. And first of all, I'd like to just tell you that I want to remind the council that back in December you set forth a ruling that anything over $5,000 needs to be at the city council's approval. But that's going to kind of go against what we're going to be talking about tonight. So that's what the resolution is about, and going to need a vote. So I just want to read this to you because I'll just tell you that I wrote some of this, but the meat of this was written by Shane because he is the expert with all of this. It's a little bit foreign to me yet. So we are in need of parts for the recirculation pumps for the splash and lap pools at the aquatic center. The pump started to corrode with sitting water for an extended period of time due to prolonged pools closure due to COVID-19. The pumps locked up in late fall of this last year, likely due to humidity over the summer months. This is a recurring problem with raw iron in a harsh environment over time, and every year it compounds until failure finally occurs. Due to the pumps no longer being available, we are limited to the sole supplier's replacement part availability. The only other option would be for the pumps to be replaced completely, which would be at a lot higher cost. This is where it's brought up. It's just remember that the City Council's policy requires purchases over $5,000 needs to have two quotes. However, in this case, we are limited to a single supplier who can provide the pump for a couple of reasons. They're kind of territorial, is what I've been told, that whoever's selling these is selling it in this area, and then if you go 80 miles to the east of here, that's going to come out of a different area. Everybody stays in their area. So what we're looking for is permission from the City Council to get two quotes, or not to get two quotes, even though the costs are over $5,000. These companies can supply these parts. Are territorial, like we said before, which would make it nearly impossible to even get a legitimate quote. A sole source exception is needed in this case. So sole source exception would mean we're not going to be able to get two quotes for you, and we need to keep this moving also. Budget implications that go along with this, that this was budgeted for the repairs that were needed for the pool. It's just we weren't able to get the two quotes like normally needed. And just
what does that cost? Do you have an idea? I guess I forget.
Well, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me because I didn't bring that sheet.
$7,800, and then there's some freight on that, which is probably less than $100.
So, but that was all budgeted.
That'll cure the problem?
This one.
Okay.
Ongoing problems. When you've got chlorine, when you got water, that's like anything else. Things are going to rot.
When we fill it up, we'll find the rest. But this is the obvious one that we're trying to be proactive in, because it does take a little while to get parts. So.
And we knew this issue was going to be here before it was going to open up this past year too, correct?
What's that?
We knew this issue was going to before we were going to open it up last year. We just didn't have.
We didn't know this was going to be an issue, this individual issue. But when we shut things down last fall, they were spinning. They sounded kind of marginal, and then we checked it about a month later after we had a little more time, and then we couldn't get them removed. So
Zing.
It's just something we fogged the pumps, but no matter what, there's still water in them. So just sitting for that long, it's just like you get a bare piece of metal and you leave it out where it's wet. It just starts building up, and eventually it just ain't gonna turn anymore. So
we can use COVID money for this, you said? No. Because it was COVID, the pumps were shut off.
True.
We send it to the governor then and have him pay it? It's his fault we didn't have the pool going.
I'll write the letter tomorrow, George.
Yeah, I'll sign it. I mean, these things are mandated, but they don't. It's just too bad for us, and that's not just not right.
Yeah. Well, there's also been a lot of money that's came into the community that's been from the state and federal governments, though, and that's really helped out on a lot of things too. It just isn't going to cover everything, obviously. Recommendation. Oh, go ahead, Shane.
I mean, this would happen eventually. It just usually more noticeable. Like if we were to operate the pool last year, we would have known about it. We could have budgeted for it a little better. We have money in the budget each year for maintenance, but with it sitting for this long, we don't know what else is out there. We're gonna pray and hopefully everything comes out fine.
And we know a pool or aquatic center is an amenity that you need to have a city keep going. So, just recommendation from myself and Shane and Eric would be to go through this as soon as possible, so we can just stay on course for getting the aquatic center open this year. So, okay.
So you guys, do you see any problem with just getting the one quote? Are we going to have an issue here?
Well, it's ultimately there's no legality issue. This is just a policy, internal policy. Your policy allows you to make a sole source exception in this case, and so we're recommending you do that because we can't get another supplier. Literally can't get another supplier. It's either that we do this or we don't do the project.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2021-34 for the sole source.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Eeks?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Koopman?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Landite?
Aye.
The next item, Mayor, is resolution 2021-35. which is the RFP for the multipurpose center evaluation design. We've talked about this a couple of council meetings as well previously. At the last council meeting, regular council meeting, you asked me to put together an RFP for these services. You passed a resolution at that time saying this is what you wanted in it. So the way that I wrote the RFP, and what I did ultimately is that I took bits and pieces from other people's RFPs, and then Shane and I reviewed it, and we put together what we think makes sense in this context. There are really 4 components to it, in reality, just like you asked for in the last meeting. The first one is an evaluation of the preferred options, the liquor store or new build, liquor store remodel or rebuild, a new build. The second component is the citizen engagement portion of it. That was important to you as well, to make sure that we, hold those community meetings and things like that. The third one is for them to look at funding options, for us, how we're going to pay for it. We'll also, as staff, be looking at that as well. And the last one ultimately is design for the final preferred alternatives. So in other words, you make a choice, what you're going to do, and then they design it. Now, the way that I have asked for this in this RFP is that I've asked for a price for each one of these items. So let's say you get all the way through it and you're like, you know what, we don't like any of these choices. We want to do something different, We want to remodel this building, or we don't want to do it at all. You're not stuck into having to pay for the whole thing, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a step-by-step process. You can kind of walk baby steps through it. I don't know exactly how much this is going to cost, because I know you're going to ask that question. We have a sufficient amount of money, in my opinion, in the capital fund in order to pay for this. But we'll just have to see, what comes back ultimately. And so what we'll do is that, pending, if you have any feedback on this tonight, we'll put together a schedule. Ultimately, you as a council will approve who is going to do this. We'll receive that information in, and we'll have a bid opening very similar to what we did earlier today, and be very careful about the process all the way through. Ultimately, from a pure qualification standpoint, to do this kind of design, you have to be licensed and certified with the Minnesota Board of Architecture, Engineering, and Land Surveying, and in order to qualify for it. But that's because it's Class A occupancy space, and that's basically directly from our chief building official, which is Shane, saying this is what you have to have legally in order to do this kind of project. And so ultimately, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the RFP specifically. Don't have any more presentation.
So when this goes out, we would have some more money we have to lay out just to find out what we're going to do. Am I understand that right or not? I guess I don't.
Well, there's going to be 4 pieces to it that you're going to be paying for. All the way, this will get you from where you are today, an evaluation of your choices, citizen input, funding options, all the way through design. And so when you get to the end of this, you're going to have an actual architectural drawings and all of the engineering documents you need to go to bid for construction. And you can use those renderings and documents also for fundraising too, because then you know exactly what it is going to be. And so it's not just about, it is, yes, about deciding what it is, helping to decide what it is, but it is also about the final, what it is as well.
But are you asking, if we put this out, if the bids come in and it's an extraordinary high price, we can still deny all bids?
Oh, absolutely.
And not move forward with it, spending that money?
Absolutely. You always have that opportunity. If it comes back, you could say, you know what? It's like what you did with the Anderson building downtown, where we got one bid that was extraordinarily high and said, you know what, we're not going to do that project. And so what we would do then, if that's what you would like to do, is we would have you adopt a resolution to reject all the bids. And then we'd have to go back to the drawing board to decide what it is that we're going to do. But ultimately, yes, you always have that. You always have that choice.
Well, as long as we don't throw money at, like we did with the ISG report, to me, I don't know if that was worth a nickel. To me,
I think that was
I
exceedingly
don't mean
well
to throw
worth
them,
the money.
don't mean to throw them under the bus, but it already told us things we already knew. The
What it-
Asian building was not big enough. The old liquor store needs to be remodeled.
Sometimes it's important to get outside opinions to tell you what you already know, George, because at the end of the day, we had people fighting over a lot of things, and now we've narrowed it down to 2. I consider that to be significant progress and well worth the $5,500 that we spent on that report.
And we also got an idea of what the costs might be. I mean, a range of remodeling costs, conservative to high, for remodeling this building or building a new building. So I agree that
I didn't put any salt at all into the numbers they gave us. I thought they were fictitious.
I think we understand that, yeah. I mean, I think that part of also what's embedded in this document is a requirement that if you go all the way through this at the end, that they'll provide an engineer's estimate of how much they think it will cost to build what they design. And so you'll have an idea, a better, more detailed idea exactly of what it would cost.
Where are the RFPs? What publications do we put those in?
We're going to reach out directly to some architectural and engineering firms we know are going to be interested in it specifically. And so I will literally email those people directly. There's a couple of, we'll advertise in the local paper because I think that's the right thing to do, even though I don't know if anybody in town would bid on it. But ultimately we're going to go to the state, the state, bid sites and things like that, online. And I don't have all those compiled yet at this, and that's one of the reasons why you see blanks in here in terms of when this is going to be released, because we need to do a little bit of homework on that. But I can tell you that there are at least 3 of these firms that have already reached out to me saying they'd be interested to bid on this project.
that's good.
They read the paper just like everybody else. And they're like, oh, Tracy's building a community center. That might be business for us.
Do we have a close date on the RFP?
I don't have a close date on it yet because I want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in the row, but so that's not part of this document today, but my opinion is that we want to try to get it closed by the end of April. That's my goal. And then, have you award it about that time. So I 5-6 weeks from now, something like that is my hope.
Okay.
Does that meet everybody's expectations in terms of timing, by the way?
So once you had mentioned something about more community involvement, that'll all be done in that time too?
No. The community involvement will be done after we award it. The firm that we're hiring for this, assuming you hire somebody from this process, would do the community involvement. That'd be part of what they would do as part of their task. So we wouldn't be doing that, they would.
So we have a meeting on the 26th of April. Would we want to have it hopefully closed by the 23rd?
That's my hope, yes, is that we'd have it by then so that we could bring it to you on that last meeting in April, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Those discussions, anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-35.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eads,
Aye.
Orman,
Aye.
Koopman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Powell,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Landay.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item is Resolution 2021-36, which is your council goals. We met about this a week ago, sent you out the document last week, and For the record, last year we had adopted 4 goals. 3 of these are the same as they were before, as well as the mission and vision is also the same. So develop new housing plan for families is the same as last year, so that's continuing. Developing a marketing program to promote the city of Tracy is continuing. Promote a well-maintained city infrastructure, also the same as it was before. We took off the the finance one, and I think the rationale was that we did it. It was accomplished, in large part, and so since we felt like that was something to check off the list, we didn't feel like that was something we needed to add to the list in 2021. And in addition to that, added 2 additional goals. One of which you already know about and we've been working on for some time, which is design and build a new multipurpose center. And the last one, which I mentioned earlier, which is to encourage citywide beautification. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback, and we can make any modifications you want, to this document. These are your goals.
Well, I thought what Eric had wrote up pretty well summarizes what we went over last Monday night.
Yeah. He did a wonderful job putting that together.
Thank you.
Does anybody care to make that motion then?
I would make the motion to adopt resolution 2021-36.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eads,
Aye.
Orman,
Aye.
Koopman,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Dow,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Landeck.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one more resolution.
One more resolution. We've talked about this briefly, 2021-38, which is just accepting a bid for airport runway paving maintenance. And that was for $141,813.75 to Farner. And you have the resolution in front of you, as well as the letter from Bollig recommending that Farner Asphalt be awarded this agreement.
Is there a time frame that they have to have it done by?
It's going to be done this year, but I don't know the exact time frame, and Bollig's gone, otherwise I would ask them.
I just didn't know if one of those that had to be done by like July 1st or something like that, or.
No, it has to be done this year, but it'll be done this summer.
Just so they don't try to come when we have the fly-in or don't, you can add that this year.
Hopefully.
We don't know. We'll know in the next executive order or two, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, just so they're aware of the timing, I guess.
Yeah.
Because from Wisconsin or wherever they're from, they may not realize that.
Yeah, and we'll bring that up. There'll be a pre-construction meeting generally. Bring that up at that time.
So I'd make the motion to approve 2021-38, the contract for the runway.
I'll second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eads,
Aye.
Orman,
Aye.
Koopman,
Aye.
Schmidt. Aye. Dow,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Landeck.
Aye.
Motion carries. Matt, did you have something you wanted to join with?
Just 2 quick updates. Briefly, I can't disclose much because they're somewhat protected by attorney-client, but Eric and I met with ISG on Friday regarding the claim that we had against them, and we'll give you more developments as that progresses, but I think that was somewhat productive. Second, you should have received that letter from First National Bank. I'll update you on any developments. My email and letter, I think, speaks for itself, but I can update you accordingly. If you have questions, feel free to email me or call me, but I'll provide you updates as necessary on those 2 things. So.
Thank you. With that, if we don't have anything else, we will adjourn for the closed meeting, right?
Yep. Got to adjourn for the closed meeting.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.